Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Kate Hamilton Health Podcast. So in today's episode I chat with Rebecca Nugent. Rebecca is a certified nutrition coach who specialises in helping women achieve sustainable fat loss through a holistic approach. Having personally lost 55 pounds herself, she is committed to guiding others on their fitness journeys. Rebecca is originally from Ireland, but she now lives in Taiwan, where she moved a few years ago to teach English, and now she considers it her second home. She holds a Precision Nutrition Level 1 certification, grounding her coaching in evidence-based practices. Her approach focuses on three core pillars: nutrition, mindset and fitness, with an emphasis on consistency and simplicity to achieve lasting results. Like, honest to God, we could have been talking about my journey and my values around coaching. We have that much in common. We have a wonderful conversation where we talk about everything from nutrition, mindset, fitness, career change, creating space to actually discover yourself. We talk about her weight loss journey and how that slow and steady approach gave her the lasting results that she has today. We talk about the importance of daily movement and walking. We talk about eating enough, keeping your calories high, and how that actually benefits you long term. And we talk about how all of the habits that you put in place to reach your goals become your identity. And once they become your identity, they just become something that you will do automatically. We talk a little bit about goal setting and goals and how important it is to really value the little things that actually bring you the most happiness. This was a really, really enjoyable conversation for me. And I think there's so much value you're going to get from everything that Rebecca has to share to take on your own journeys. Hi, Rebecca. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Kate. Thank you so much for having me.
I was just saying off air about how on paper we actually sound very much like the same person.
Literally, like every time I listen to your podcast, I'm like, it's like me, but without kids, and you're not in Taiwan.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, Kate, if she just moved to Taiwan, just left her
Yeah.
kids fine. Now I have thought of emigrating and just, going to Tesco and never coming back. No, I'm joking. But I'm really excited to hear your story and to hear your perspective and to dive into a lot of the similar beliefs and methods that we do share. But yeah, I suppose before we get into it, if you would like to introduce yourself, tell everyone a little bit about you, your backstory, and what's led you to being here today.
Yeah, I feel like naturally when you get asked that question, there's so many different like avenues. But I think naturally to keep it related to nutrition and mindset and fitness, it actually does tie in with my move to Taiwan, because I moved to Taiwan alone. And I remember just having so much time alone really gave me the opportunity to actually realize that something was off. I feel like sometimes we get so caught up in like the rat race and day-to-day life. And even every client I speak to now and every friend I speak to, like life is just wild at the moment. And I heard you say that before in previous times that like during COVID, we all had a chance to actually realize, oh, we should slow down. And we did. And we swore we'd never go back to this. And now we're just like here, busier than ever. And I think moving to Taiwan was kind of my own little moment of that. I was just completely alone and I had so much free time. And I really, really, really realized I was so unhappy internally and externally. And I think when it's external, it's one thing, but when it becomes like really internal, that's deeper. And yeah, I just had a bit of an epiphany one day and I was like, you really need to change. I got very caught up in the just like my priority was just like having the crack and like health was never a priority. And then reaching 25, you just kind of have a moment. I feel like you either go one way or the other. Like you keep doing what you're doing and just, or else you kind of have to make a change. When I was 110 kg, I was like, this can't continue. So I remember the day I bought a weighing scales for my body and for food and I hopped on it. I didn't understand kg at all, which is actually a technique I use with clients because we're so accustomed to stones and pounds in Ireland. So when I saw 110 kg, it actually meant nothing to me. It's only now when I'm like, oh, that was quite, different what I am now. And from that day on, I just became so, I don't like the term obsessed, but you know yourself, like we are so caught up in this world, but it's for the best. Like I am so interested in nutrition, the psychology behind it, the depth of the nutrition, I suppose, and the depth of health, because we would have always associated health with just weight. That's what I would have associated with. And it was just skin deep, but it's obviously not. And it's led me down this path now. And nutrition was always something I was interested in. Like, we come from an agricultural background in my family, and I feel we were always very like level headed when it came to food and nutrition and whatnot. But I obviously just kind of, yeah, I was the one in the family who never got the kind of athletic side really, and the nutrition just never really clicked. It was always an interest of mine. I wanted to study in college, but I didn't get the points. And it's funny how it all comes back around. And I think I was listening to you saying similar stuff as well. Like, I was teaching for years and I always loved it. And I didn't leave teaching because I didn't enjoy it. But it was obviously very, 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 it's a tiring, taxing job. And I think coaching is kind of amalgamating nutrition and teaching into one. And that's ultimately why I love it so much. And that's why I'm here.
Sorry, I didn't know you were a teacher. I'm literally like, we are the same person. That's so
Yeah.
funny. So were you a primary school teacher or a secondary school teacher?
Well, see, now to move abroad to teach English, like, I'm not an actual teacher. I studied business and
Oh, you're
Chinese in
sorry,
college.
you're teaching English in Taiwan, is it?
Yeah. Now, I was teaching English for years, but then there does, like, you kind of get other opportunities. So I got to dip into PE teaching as well, which was hilarious. Like, literally teaching Gaelic football to a bunch of Taiwanese teenagers. It was just great. But yeah, high school, usually high school here in Taiwan. I've always taught secondary school. It suited me a little bit better, but I'm not a real teacher like yourself.
Well, you sound very much like a real teacher if you're working with kids and you're making a difference in their lives.
Yeah.
Have you
Yeah.
moved away from teaching, or are you still teaching and then moving into the world of nutrition on the side?
No, actually, last year I just took the leap. Like, I do think my
Yeah.
parents were a little bit like, what? But I just was like, you know what? I need to go all in on this. And the beautiful thing about teaching in Taiwan, and I think Ireland is similar-ish. Like, there will always be work. Like, it will always be there. You'll find something, particularly in Taiwan. Like, there's so much work here. So I just said I'd take the leap and go full on into the nutrition. And like, it was a big risk. But you know yourself, like, it's so time consuming with content and everything like that. I couldn't do both. And you're trying to wear different hats. Like, one minute you're a teacher, next minute you're a coach. And it was too exhausting. But after living in Taiwan then for a couple of months, just working for myself, I kind of missed the teaching. Like, that's the whole point of living here, is to be in the community and the society and the culture. So now I do the odd bit of subbing actually, and I really, really, really enjoy it. Like, it's really fun because it's on my terms, and subbing is obviously a little bit different. I dabble, let's say, but no, nutrition coaching is the main thing.
It can be a very lonely job when you're working with people online. It's so amazing the flexibility of it, but yet you're suddenly not part of a tribe anymore, and that can be quite difficult to get used to. And obviously, you build your own tribe, but then it's a tribe you're kind of in charge of. So it's nice to be around other people with similar interests. This is where, like, for me, like, I'm kind of veering my way back towards CrossFit a little bit because I'm like, I get to be around people and it's a community and it's really nice to be able to just switch off and just, yeah, be around people in person.
Yeah, I think because we obviously got so used to that in our careers. Like, teaching is so full on. There's literally just people everywhere, questions all the time. Like, the days absolutely fly. And that kind of environment really suits me. But obviously, the coaching is so flexible and I enjoy it so much. So it's about finding the balance as well. Like, that's why I'm so adamant of always having check in calls with my clients, because, like, I'm just dying to talk to them. And we're 8 hours ahead here in Taiwan. So I usually get like everything done, and then people start waking up in Ireland and the texts start coming in and the calls start coming in, and I'm like, oh, it's like social again. So it's a nice balance at the moment.
And it's interesting what you were saying about, us being so busy and being so busy that we don't even like, that there's external unhappiness, but then there's internal unhappiness. And what I think about that busyness that I talk about, and like I struggle with it all the time. Like, it's like this constant fight to keep the quiet so I can actually hear what I really want and feel what I really want. Because I think when the external noise and the external, even doesn't even have to be external unhappiness, just external busyness and noise, it makes it impossible to even know whether you're unhappy or not inside. Like, I didn't even think about that. I was just go, go, go. I was just being, there's what's next, what's next, what do I have to do today, what's happening tomorrow? And you're just being dragged along by this busy lifestyle. And I do think a lot of young people, young Irish people, are getting that space when they emigrate, when they move away, and they're getting that space to be like, whoa, hold on a second. I don't have to live this rat race. I can do it this other way. Whereas I didn't do that travel at that young age because I had kids when I was quite young. So I kind of just was like straight into it. And then, like I've said in other podcasts, like COVID was the first time I ever stopped and was like, oh, I don't know that I want to do this. It was the first time I ever thought about what I actually wanted and discovered things that I was passionate about. And it's just so interesting that you said that that's what happened when you moved away, and probably the exposure to, oh, look at the wider world as well. That was probably huge for you as well.
Yeah, and I think it's easier to stay in your lane and stay in that like ignorance of the reality. Because before Taiwan, I did actually live in China for 3 years and then it was Ireland. And I moved to China with friends and we were always around each other, lived with friends. Everything was friends, friends, friends. And then, like, if I wasn't in work, I was with my friends. If I wasn't in work, like, we'd go out. Like, I was always surrounded by people. I was never alone. And then, like you said, just getting that space when I moved to Taiwan alone, I resisted it so much. Like, it was so difficult. I was like, why am I doing this? Like, should I just move back to China? Should I just move back to Ireland? Like, being alone is really, really, really uncomfortable because I had the external and internal unhappiness. And COVID forced the whole world to do that, like, which in hindsight is so unique and interesting that we all had that chance. But just to reiterate my point of, like, I really think it's easier to stay in your lane. Like, it's easier to not face the truth almost. Like, it was so difficult for me to do, but it was just inevitable. Like, I realized how unhappy I was, but I can see how we can get so caught up in that because sitting down and taking that me time and realizing, oh, this is a bit off or something's wrong is the hard thing to do. And it's kind of like that thing you always see on Instagram and online about like choosing your hard. Like, all that we do to be healthy mentally and physically and everything is hard. But then ultimately being unhealthy is really hard as well. And it's like, which one is better?
Yeah. From my experience from working with a lot of people and from my own experience as well with myself, that our lifestyles get so busy that we get to the stage that, like I've said, we don't realize how unhappy we are, but there is that fear of stopping, even if it's like an underlying fear, or that fear of being alone that you talk about. Like, I experienced that quite young with a small baby, being like 23 years old, being like, oh my God, please don't leave me on my own with him. I don't know what to do. But that sitting with that unhappiness and that insecurity, and a lot of our destructive habits that are stopping us from being healthy are all habits that we've put in place to protect us from deep down that unhappiness, that insecurity, whatever that underlying thing is that we all have. Like, any of us that are over the age of 25, if you've made it through the education system, even, you're going to have layers of insecurities, layers of bits that you've built up that don't serve you, that but you've put in place to protect you, that end up self-sabotaging. So when it comes to, uncontrollable eating in the evening time, it's usually because deep down there's an extremely uncomfortable feeling that you're trying to distract yourself from. It's not just food. I'm just using that as an example. It can be overworking, it can be overtraining, it can be drinking, it can be drugs, it can be whatever. There's so many different ways we do it. But like, I think one of the biggest harmful substances, it's not even a substance, but I'm going to say substance anyway,
Yeah.
is using busyness as an excuse to not actually face yourself and your
Mhm.
circumstances.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, like, you mentioned something there about whether it be overtraining or overworking or drinking or whatever it may be, like, it can actually be a healthy habit, but because it's so excessive and it's being used as a distraction or it's been used as an escape, that actually makes it ultimately unhealthy. And it's something I'm always trying to observe with myself, clients, friends, family, everything. Like, just because something on paper is a healthy thing, anything in excess is unhealthy. And yeah, exactly what you just said there. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's been used to distract yourself from the busyness and not face yourself, I see that as an element of unhealthiness. And sometimes when I see these extreme transformations, when people go from like excessively, obviously we see lots of stuff online now, and maybe they were like very overweight and then they've went and done a bodybuilding competition. Now, like, that's just not my picture of health. It might be otherwise, but I see that as they've almost replaced one unhealthy lifestyle with another, because bodybuilding is ultimately an unhealthy sport. Like, it obviously depends if it's short term, long term. Sorry, not bodybuilding, like the competitions. if it's
Mhm.
long term or short term or whatever. But just to kind of draw it back to nutrition and everything, like it's about always being able to evaluate and take a second, is this actually holistically healthy, or is this particular habit just healthy? If it's compromising other areas of the holistic health wheel, for want of a better word, then I would see that as almost it's unhealthy because it's taken from another area. But it takes that time and that self-awareness to figure that out. Someone can tell you or figure it out for you, but you need to understand it yourself as well. And that's what this whole journey is about. Like, I figured that out at around 27, let's say. But I'm sure plenty of people figured it out at 21, and maybe people figure it out later. Like, it takes work.
That's what causes this yo-yo diet cycle or this diet culture. It's like you're just basically putting a band-aid over a what, like, I don't know what's the expression, band-aid over a
Broken
giant
leg.
crack.
I
Expression?
think it's a band-aid on a broken leg, I think.
Band-aid on a broken leg. Perfect. Like a giant. But yeah, that like they'll do another diet or they'll start running or they'll join the gym and this'll fix it. This'll fix it. And it's not it's just you're adding into a lifestyle that needs to be looked at, a mindset that needs to be looked at, a whole life. I always say this kind of all the time on the podcast. This is not me telling everyone to turn their lives upside down and, leave their partners and leave their jobs or anything like that. But it is a case that more often than not, we're not talking about a diet. Like anyone who comes on board with me will know that we're not talking about a diet. We're looking at your whole lifestyle because the habits, like, most of us are busy professionals, we're busy mothers, we're, busy parents, whatever. Very few of us are actually lazy. We're
Mhm.
not lazy. We're just so overworked. We're so overwhelmed and we don't even know where to start. This is why, like with my coaching, the number one thing that's most important is creating space in your day for daily reflection. Because if you don't know what's wrong, how can you ever fix it? Or if you don't know that there is something wrong there, how can you ever start to resolve it to get to a place of freedom, to get to a place of health, to get to a place of where you're meant to be? Because that's the problem. Most of us aren't aware.
Yeah, and that's why I think like our role there is to guide, because that's something I'm very conscious of when it comes to coaching. Because naturally, I'm a certified nutrition coach, and like no matter what certificate you kind of have, there is no certificate there that's like, let's say, a life coach certificate. I mean, maybe there has. I haven't looked into it, but it's like what determines a life coach, let's say. But all I do know for sure is when it comes to nutrition, fitness, mindset, it trickles so much deeper than just like the aesthetic or the health. And sometimes if you're having a conversation with a client and you can kind of see that maybe relationship wise, it's not the healthiest, or there's a habit that they've mentioned that like my husband does this or my boyfriend does this. And sometimes I'm like, I'm never going to comment on that because I'm not a relationship coach. So it's not my place. But I can ultimately see that that little part is actually making a big difference. So, like you said, it's about guiding people to reflect on that and giving them the space and the time and probing the questions to guide them to what could be fixed here. And sometimes it takes weeks, sometimes it takes months, but I feel people will always, as they become happier in themselves physically and mentally off the back of improving their nutrition, fitness, and health and lifestyle, they'll figure out those things. And I see it time and time again, like people start to figure out, oh, this doesn't feel right, because they've got something to compare it to. They've seen the strength and the happiness that comes off of them practicing healthy habits and improving their nutrition and improving fitness. And therefore they'll realize like, oh, maybe this relationship is a little bit, whether that be a romantic relationship, could just be a friendship. Or I remember realizing there was a big correlation between my nutrition habits and also my spending habits. I was very all or nothing with my spending habits as well. Like if I went on a weekend away, be like, woo, like money doesn't count, like when you're in the airport and you're like, what is money? Like I realized I had like a little negative association there, but just because I had learned it from nutrition, I was then able to relate it to something
Yeah.
deeper like finance. I found that really interesting. So I don't bring up those topics with my clients, but I can see them starting to realize little things, and that's the beauty of the journey, really.
Yeah, and you see where it all stems from. It stems from connecting in with our true selves. It stems with quieting the noise. It stems with, yeah, actually just giving yourself a little bit of focus, which is what a lot of women are not great at doing, especially the older we get, the busier we get, the more responsibilities we get. Like when we put in the habit of like the daily walk, suddenly you're out walking. whether it is with a friend, which you know is good for your health as well, or whether if it is by yourself, where you have that time to reflect, you're doing it automatically without thinking. Or if you're going to the gym and you're training, it's you and your thoughts, and there's a certain amount of you working through your thoughts, and there's a certain amount of you being very present in the moment, giving you a break from your thoughts, which then leads to that wisdom actually being able to surface, which is what creates the long-term change. What I'm really interested to hear a little bit more about is your own personal weight loss journey as well, and kind of what you found worked for you. Because am I correct in thinking, is it 55 pounds that you have lost?
Yeah, so I have it converted to that because Irish people generally don't understand kg. Sometimes when I say 25 kg, I see people's jaws drop, but then I'm like, do we actually know what that is? So my sister luckily was a personal trainer at that time and still is. So I had her to go to for the guidance, but I was alone in Taiwan ultimately. But I remember her telling me the number, and now I'm 6 foot tall. So being 110 kg and 6 foot tall, like, you're allowed pretty high calories. And I remember her telling me, okay, I want you to eat 2,400 calories every day. Now, I'd never tracked, like, I think I had my fitness pal on my phone, but I'd never really stuck to it. So naturally, I probably was quite inaccurate at the start. But I started to eat 2,400 every day. But I genuinely thought she was like sabotaging me. I thought she just wanted to be like the skinnier sister, Like, I was like, how am I going to lose weight? Like, it was so much food. Like, you know yourself, 2,400 is quite a lot, especially when it's good quality food. Like,
Yeah.
naturally, it can add up quickly when it's pizzas and chips or whatever, but when it's good quality, high protein, high fiber, it's a lot of food. And I remember I'd get to the end of the day and I might have 200 calories left. And she would literally be like, Becky, go out to the kitchen, get some dark chocolate and peanut butter and eat it. Like, she'd be like, meet those calories. And I understood what she meant because it was about implementing the habit of like the consistency there with that. Like, I obviously could fit in chocolate and peanut butter. Like, I was just being dramatic saying that I was too full. Cause you know the way you want to feel like, oh, I
Yeah.
can't eat that much. I'm too skinny. Like, all those terminologies that we used to just love using. So I think I ate that amount for about 3 or 4 months. And then there was a bit of a slowdown. And I'd probably lost 5 or 6 kg at that point. Then she lowered me to lower calories. And I think I wouldn't say I finished off because, like, you never finish this process. Like you said, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. But I was still eating such high calories. Like, I don't think I ever once felt hungry. Genuinely, I never felt restricted. I never felt hungry. And it just clicked. Like, I couldn't believe that this is how easy it was supposed to be the whole time. I probably shouldn't say easy, but how straightforward and simple. I
Yeah.
can't believe that that's the way it was the whole time. Like, why was I doing Special K diets and Weight Watchers and Slimming World as a teenager? Like, it's not that complicated. So I lost consistently for about a year. And then it was definitely time to kind of take a bit of a break from it because dieting and deficiting for that long is mentally and physically taxing. And
Mm.
I found like I wasn't really enjoying life in Taiwan. Like, there's so much food to be enjoyed here, and I wasn't eating it because I was always trying to eat at home. So I took a little bit of a break for about 2 years and I maintained, which is obviously amazing progress in itself. Like, I really stayed in and around the same weight bracket. And then in the past 2 years or so, I've really pushed at it again, particularly wanting to become a nutrition coach. Like, you want to just become better, like, you want to set an example for your clients too. But now I'm kind of out the other side where like weight is the last thing on my mind. Like, I couldn't care less what the scale says. It's more so like the strength and the fitness that comes with it. And I never thought I'd get there. But that's the beauty of this whole thing of you look back on yourself 4, 5, 6 years ago and you're like, how did I used to think like that? Like, and that's why it's such a work in progress. And it's not an overnight thing. It's a constant daily decision to better yourself that leads you to that healthier place. And yeah, it was just high calories, sustainable, realistic. Like, it was a long journey, but I was ready for it. And I can see that in clients when I meet them as well. You can see that in signing up with you, they're ready for that change. And I've noticed more often than not, clients always trust me with the higher calories. Like, they're like, whoa, that's a high number, but it keeps it so sustainable and realistic. And that will forever and always be my approach because it's exactly how I was successful in it.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I really do want to dive right into this nutrition and the idea of more food. I'm saying this in case I forget, so we can bring it back to this. That how important it is to eat to keep calories high. Like, it's an absolute game changing way of moving forward to actually achieving long term results that you can actually keep off. I just wanted to interrupt the podcast for a moment to talk to you a little bit about Kate Hamilton Health online coaching. So we have two coaching options available. We have our elite coaching and we have our group coaching service. Our elite coaching service is bespoke, individualized coaching, which will help you to finally break free from diet culture with one-to-one anytime support from your coach and with access to a safe, supportive community. This is a higher ticket coaching option and the coaching is by application only. If you go to my website, katehamiltonhealth.com, you will be able to apply for elite coaching through there and we will be in touch to organize a call and to get you up and running. In relation to our group coaching starts on the first Monday of every month. When it's full each month, we do close the doors. With the group coaching is about building the habits, body and energy of the healthiest version of yourself and finally make it stick. We include personalized calories and portions, food lists, recipes, meal plan ideas, step goals, home or gym based workouts, depending on what you want, changed every 8 weeks, mindset work, app access. So that's the Kate Hamilton Health app, which will be your hub for everything, weekly yoga classes, WhatsApp group community, weekly group Q&A with myself, fun challenges, daily habits form, weekly self check-in, fortnightly check-ins with your coach, a library full of lifestyle guides, a library full of lessons, seminars, and all of this is updated regularly. We have weekly group Zoom calls with myself and the team, regular guest seminars where we get experts on to talk more to you about different topics that we need experts on for. And then we have in-person events twice a year that you will get at a major discount as being a member of the Kate Hamilton Health community. So, as I said, this starts the first Monday of every month. If you go to my website, katehamiltonhealth.com, you will see when the next group coaching intake is starting for you. So we close the doors as soon as that intake is full or the Monday before the group coaching starts. So usually that last Monday of the previous month. So if you head over to katehamiltonhealth.com, all of that information that I've talked through is on the website. You'll be able to book your spot for the next intake there. And I will chat to you all then. But I just wanted to ask you a few more things then about your own journey. So in relation to movement, what kind of like movement and training and stuff were you doing along the journey, or has that changed over this long period of time?
Hmm. So obviously at first the goal was just weight loss. And when you're that size or that unhappy, you're just desperate to get the weight off. So the calories my sister gave to me, and I remember at the time she asked me my rough exercise, and I was like, oh, like I walk and get a coffee in the morning. Like it could have probably totaled from teaching all day or whatever, it probably was around 6,000 steps. Ultimately, we always have that 10,000 in our heads, which is actually so negative, to be honest. And that actually comes from a Japanese word of just the name of the concept of moving more. It just comes from, it sounds like 10,000. So they just stuck 10,000 on it, but it's not feasible for everyone. And it's really low for some other people. So my sister had said, okay, do 7,000 then. So I aimed for 7,000. And that was literally just like getting off the bus to stop earlier than usual, going to work or something to build up that extra 1,000. But then you become hungrier for it and you want to move more. And you realize that the more you move, the better it is. So that quickly went from 8,000 to 9,000 to 10,000 and then easily like 12,000. It was just constantly walking. Like any chance I had to walk, I would walk. And I think that that's something that is such a game changer when you realize the impact that walking can have. We've always associated weight loss with being, okay, I need to start running or I need to start going to the gym. I could honestly probably say the majority of my weight was lost from just walking. Obviously nutrition, but the exercise would have been walking. Like the gym had very little to do with it. I mean, if anything, I've built muscle in the gym, so none of the actual like the weight side of things is probably very unrelated. It was all steps. It was all steps. And then I think after about a year, I had gained the confidence to join the Gaelic football team here in Taiwan. I had went a couple times when I was heavy, but I just didn't have the confidence for it. Like I was so unfit and so unhealthy and unhappy in myself. So that was another byproduct of like, because of the weight loss and because of the steps, I didn't necessarily get fitter, but I got more confident and I was able to join a whole community here, which ultimately bettered my life. And that's the like trickle effect of weight loss, because what starts off as a couple kg on the scales opens you up to this whole community, which is now literally my family and my life here in Taiwan is the football team. So I think the epiphany that the power of walking and steps is ultimately the lead domino when it comes to exercise. Like going to the gym for an hour is really, really, really not effective when the main goal is weight loss. And that was such an eye opener.
Yeah. Using that hour to just move your body a little bit more by walking. Like if you're stuck for time, obviously. Are you now at the stage, are you at maintenance? I'm just curious because I'd love to know, when you kind of got to where you wanted to go. Because I know a lot of people listening will be like, how did she keep it off?
Mm.
What, like, did you bring calories back up gradually? Did you find your calorie maintenance is much lower after losing so much weight? Like, what have you done to kind of, yeah, to manage it, I suppose?
Yeah. And that's actually one of the main reasons why I feel coaching. That's why I wanted to become a coach, because it's literally like, I hate saying it's complicated, but it's important to keep everything really, really healthy and to do it right. So because I had lost weight so gradually and sustainably, like we're talking like zero point 0.3 to zero point 0.8 of a kg every week, because I had done that so gradually, when I finally decided to take a diet break, like my habits were so second nature and habitual that, to be honest, I didn't really go back to eating like loads or whatever, but it wasn't the way I would like to do it with my clients, where we gradually work their calories back up to maintenance. I think at that point I was just so ready to, like, I had just gotten into a new relationship and I was just ready to switch off from it. I think I had, let's say, moved into another chapter. But then when I went back to losing weight, I got a serious slap in the face when I went back to my 2,200 calories or whatever, and weight was not budging. And naturally, that makes sense. At that point, I would have been 15 to 20 kg lighter. Of course, like you're not going to have the same calories. So I tried and tried and tried for weeks to do it by myself. And the weight was just not budging, because naturally my maintenance was way lower. So then I got back onto my sister and she kind of advised me of it. And I remember going lower with the calories, but I didn't actually, like, being someone who's 6 foot, like, you can eat a lot of food and you do need a lot of food. And I didn't ever want to be down by 1,700 or 1,800 or anything like that. And I don't like talking about numbers too much here, because obviously everyone is so different and it is very
Mm.
personal. But I realized then, like, this isn't the way it should be. So I started to work it back up gradually by about 50 calories a week to work my maintenance up. But at this point, I was studying nutrition. So I was kind of a bit of a case study for myself. It was about this time last year when I started the business. I was really, really, really focused on losing the weight. I couldn't care less about this now, but I felt a little bit of that imposter syndrome of, like, you can't call yourself a nutrition coach when you don't look like the typical coach online. Obviously, and this is something that I kind of dread about the industry, is obviously everything is just like, you know, there's just, it's all about your body, really. It's all about how you look. Like, I'm adamant to never really post pictures in bikinis or stuff like that. I just don't want it to be about that. I don't want to draw away from the fact that it's so much deeper than how you look. And I feel like if my page becomes about how I look or how my clients look, it's losing the point, because that's not what I care about anymore. So it was about this time last year when I really started to coach, that I realized, like, I can't be coaching that this is so much more important than weight and only be focusing on my weight. So I was already into the gym, but I started to take it very, very, very seriously. And I already had high protein, but I started to, I mean, really, like, you know, the way there's the graph or the metric of like, oh, zero point 0.8 to like 2.2 grams. Like, there's high protein and then there's high protein. So I started to take nutrition and stuff a lot more seriously. And then when you start to see like the muscles and the definition, and you feel so much stronger, like, I live on the fourth floor. I never take the elevator. Like, I'm always just running up the stairs. Anywhere I go, if there's stairs, I'm taking it, because you feel like you can and you're just so much stronger and fitter. So it was a process. Like, that's why there's such a market for coaches, because when you've got a lot of weight to lose, it's not as simple as just like cutting the calories and dieting a little bit before a holiday. Like, when you've got a lot of weight to lose, it's a long-term process, and it needs to be done right. It needs to be done sustainably, healthily, realistically, to keep, so that, like, you just don't jump into low calories and then your body adapts and you've got nowhere to go. Like, I see it time and time again with clients that they've been trying to lose weight on like 1,600 1500. And one, it just won't work because it's not realistic. But two, if they eat that low for a long time, then the metabolism adapts and they naturally become a little bit, they're less likely to move. They're less likely to take the stairs. Whereas eating more and fueling your body makes you do those extra things. Like it's going to make you want to run up the stairs as opposed to take the elevator. And it's going to make you want to get off the bus earlier, walk 10 minutes instead of driving. And I think that's the biggest difference with the journey 5 years ago that I started was just weight loss, weight loss, weight loss. Whereas now it's like, how can I eat as much as possible to feel as strong as possible? And it's an amazing feeling. I think you can probably relate.
Yeah, it's about it becoming your identity, isn't it? Like, it's like, I am someone who walks every day. I'm someone who takes the stairs. And, if you do a good bit of travel, you'll know this. Like, and I think of it every time I'm in the airport, when there's the escalators up
Mm.
or down, it doesn't matter. And there's the stairs beside it. And everyone goes on the escalators. And it's like me and Dave with our bags, we're like, oh, we're taking the
Oh.
stairs, like, but you just need to go into a public place and see it. Very few people will physically take the stairs. And if you can make that your identity, being like obviously I don't mean if you've got a 20-kilo bag that you need to be hopping up the stairs with it, but it is all those little things. Like, it's starting where you are and doing what you can, isn't it? That I think a lot of times people will start and they're comparing their day one to someone else's day 100. And everyone had to start somewhere. Some people will start their journey a little bit more experienced than others. And there's nothing wrong with where you start. It's just about stepping a bit out of your comfort zone, but not flinging yourself into the depths of overwhelm and being like what can I do? And this brings me back then to, if we talk a bit about nutrition and about our mindsets around nutrition, this is where it comes to crowding things out, isn't it? Rather than taking things away. It's like, how do I improve my meal? So looking at how your diet is. Do you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Oh no, I skip meals or whatever. Right. What do we need to do? We need to add in meals. We need to make sure we're eating more regularly. It doesn't have to be 3 meals. It can be 4 or 5. It depends what suits the person. But like, I would argue kind of you need 3, at
Yeah.
least 3 anyway. So it's like, add that in, right? What now? How do your meals actually look? Do we need to add more protein? Do we need to add more fiber, more vegetables? And when you add things in, and that brings me to the point then about you with your high calories. And this is the approach we take as well. Like, when we start clients, the one thing that because we take people on in groups, and everyone's like, my calories are too high. I won't lose weight. My calories are too high. And it's like, just trust the process. It's not like we're not afraid to bring people's calories down. We will as necessary. But literally, you said it, and I say it all the time. If you start too low, you have nowhere to go.
Yeah. And I think like sometimes people think like, oh, I can't possibly eat that much. But the interesting thing is if they're carrying weight, more than likely they have been eating that much and more. And that's ultimately while we're there. Obviously everyone's story is different, but I can't eat that much or that's very high. Actually, before, and my sister used to also say that to me when she started coaching me, like, well, the goal is to eat as much as possible and maintain your weight. And I remember I was obviously just going through a difficult phase, but I was like, no, it's not. I don't want to spend that much money on food. And like, why would I want to eat that much? Like, I was just like resisting it. But then I
Yeah.
realized that it's about having that food freedom of, yeah, maybe like 5 or 6 days of the week, I'm not eating, let's say, that much. But then on a Friday, I go out for a meal with my friends and I have the freedom then to choose a starter
Yes.
and a main course and a dessert. And I'm not saying that's the ideal way to do it, but once in a while, but it gives you that freedom of like, okay, because I've eaten a little bit less, let's say these days, it balances out. And it's giving you that food freedom, which is ultimately going to remove the friction and the negativity around it. And it's also about the whole overeat, restrict cycle. Like the
Yeah.
more restricted we are, the more you want food. It's just human nature. So if you've got higher calories to play with, you're never going to feel restricted. And it's something I'm always touching base on with my clients. Like, do they feel restricted? And I can tell the ones who obviously aren't focusing on food quality. And then we need to draw in that, like, we need to prioritize this over this so that you don't feel restricted. And
Yeah.
once you don't feel restricted, you won't overeat. And that's why having higher calories is going to long term make you lose weight as opposed to the lower. But it is a bit of a mind, like it's confusing, isn't it? Because we grew up to eat less. Like we grew up believing you had to eat less and move more. When I would actually advocate it's usually eat more and move more.
Yeah, and it's actually eating more volume, less calories than before you were tracking. The point that you make when someone says my calories are too high, it's like, yes, but if you're here and you have body fat to lose, you have been eating more calories than this. So these calories are still going to be less than if you weren't tracking at all. And I think with the restriction point, and it is like, it's kind of, we're trained for that. I'm on a diet, I should be eating less. And it's kind of like this punishment thing, or it's kind of nearly an excitement thing at first. It's like, oh, I need to feel like I'm having salads all the time and feeling really restricted. And it's this weird kind of self-punishment thing I think we do. But I think what happens is our brains start to play tricks on us when we're restricting. So little things will start to happen, like, yeah, I won't really track that properly, or I'll just, loosely track this and that. Like, you kind of start to lie to yourself without even, and I think a lot of it's done subconsciously. And I'm not like pointing finger at saying, like, you guys are lying to yourselves. Like, we all do this. I think it's human nature. If we're restricted, we find ways to, or we're like, oh, it's grand, I just did a 15-minute hit workout. Like, that's definitely, outdone this. And it's like we start to kind of compensate and we start to play
Yeah.
tricks on ourselves. Whereas if we just fuel to be healthy, to be nourished, to be strong, to be fit, whatever your goals are, and fat loss will be a side effect. Like, you don't see someone who moves their body every day, that finds a sport or an activity that they enjoy, that they do regularly, and they eat good quality whole foods, that are overweight. Like, your body will naturally get to where it's supposed to be. Obviously, I'm a huge advocate for tracking calories to educate yourself. What are you consuming? How should you be consuming? What are your energy requirements? Like, I think it's really, really important tool. My point is, when we start calorie tracking and we get active and we get to a point where we're like, okay, I'm in a healthy weight range now, this is where the brain can start to play tricks on us. And this is where we have to be careful. When is enough enough? And I actually get this question quite often from clients that are coming near to goal. How do I know when it's time to maintain?
Yeah.
And that's such a good question, because it depends on the person. For me, I won't bring someone past a certain point because it's not what I do. Like yourself, I don't believe in going down the path of getting stage lean like a bodybuilder or
Mm.
anything like that. I don't believe that, because that is not healthy in another direction. I think a good indicator of knowing when you've got to where you need to get health wise is when you've dropped your calories and your body's stopping responding. You're in a healthy weight range and you're in a size of clothes that you want it to be in, and you're not so fixated on a number that you have
Mhm.
to weigh a certain number, or even that you have to be a certain size clothes either. We can start think that we're not lean enough. Oh, I need to keep going. I'm not skinny enough. I'm not lean enough. I'm not fit enough. It's like, for me, and I'll finish. I'll let you talk now in a second, and I finish in this point. For me,
No, I love
it's
this.
always at about 10 stone. Okay, 140 pounds, 64 kilos, I think, if we're doing all of the metrics. I know when I get to that point, I can maintain that easily. If I stop tracking, my weight might start slipping up a little bit, and I'll just tidy up a little bit, and it's fairly easy to maintain in and around 10 stone.
Mhm.
See, trying to get down to like 9 stone 7, try to lose another 7 pounds or another 2 or 3 kilos on that. It's unsustainable for me. It becomes restrictive. I would need to be obsessive. I would have to withdraw from my lifestyle, and I'm not willing to trade that, or to look a certain way. And I wouldn't be healthy, because I would, like, in my head, I'd be like, I can't get enough protein and I can't get enough healthy fats in. I'd be like, no, this is not doing my body any good. For context, I'm 5'6", but I'm quite broad. Like, I'm quite, the word, like, big boned, but I'm not like,
Mhm.
I don't have a petite frame. So I weigh quite heavy for quite a small amount of body fat, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm really aware that that's where my body likes to sit. And I feel fit, I feel full of energy, I feel strong at that weight, give
Mhm.
or take. Sorry, it's never less than that. That would be about the lowest, would be about 10 stone. And it could go anywhere up to 10 and a half, And I like to, if I'm going over the half, I'm like, okay, okay, get your shit together. But I don't know what your thoughts are on that in relation to how to know when enough is enough.
Yeah, I think that's when it comes down to like, I mean, in terms of myself, in terms of clients, like I experienced it as well when I wasn't enjoying it anymore. Because I feel like when you are actually doing this process right and you have made the lifestyle change in the correct way, it's actually really enjoyable. Like it becomes part of your identity. Like you said, you are someone who walks
Mhm.
every day and you're someone who gets enough protein and eats enough fiber and cares about their health and their sleep. It does become part of who you are, but it should be a really positive thing. I remember the stage when I kind of, like I was saying, when I kind of just needed to switch off from it because it had been a year and there had been little diet breaks in between that, but it had been a year. I didn't have a coach. Like my sister would guide me here and there, but she wasn't like a set coach. But it's because like you're always looking for the lower calorie version of everything. Like you're in the supermarket and you're looking at two different types of digestive biscuits and you're picking one because it has 68 calories instead of the one that has 74. Like that's the kind of stuff where it's when it's unenjoyable. And I'll hear it in a client as well when I'm like, that's the sort of stuff it's actually quite minuscule right now. We don't need to be thinking that deeply. We need to zone out of that and really focus on how you're feeling. And that's why all of my questions and conversations are always based off like, how is mood? How is well being? How are stress levels, energy levels, sleep? And the questions, like you said, about like reflection and taking that space. I'm always asking about wins and challenges. And I think, like you said, it's about when the number on the scales doesn't mean that much to you anymore. That's the biggest indicator that you've kind of made it to that point. Because I don't know if it's an Irish thing, and I work with women who aren't just Irish, and I definitely see it in them, but maybe not as much as Irish. But the obsession with the scales is wild. Like, and I'm not surprised because when I think about my upbringing, like it was all just scales, scales, scales. But when someone starts to pay more attention to their measurements as opposed to the scales, or when they're delighted because they fit back into a dress that they haven't fit into in 3 years or so, and the scales has stopped being kind of mentioned, or the scales really isn't affecting their emotions anymore, that's when I feel like I know from my clients and they know from themselves that like we've made it to that phase where the main priority is actually health. And again, holistic health, not just internal health or whatever. It's also about mental health, like not looking at the scales all the time, not always pushing for more and more steps when it's actually affecting, like it's too many steps. Like, because obviously
Yeah, it's
there's only
taking
so
away
much.
from family time or it's taking away from sleep or, like it's, yeah,
Mm,
it becomes obsessive in a different way.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think another thing for me as well, and it's something that I've been working on a lot lately, that I'm such a goal orientated person, but it's learning to sit with why am I always trying to improve myself? Why am I
Mm,
always trying to change myself? Now, there's a difference between having goals just for the fun of it and for, to achieve things. But like, we really need to ask ourselves why our goals are our goals. So, like, for a little context in my own life, I've made a huge career change over the past few years. I'm growing a business. The business is growing really well. It's quite all consuming, but I'm also a mother of three. Like my eldest is doing his junior cert. I have a 13-year-old. Sorry, I've got a 15-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 7-year-old. So like life is busy with them. And I sacrificed a lot of friendships and a lot of relationships in the pursuit of this career change and building this business. That all has a very clear purpose in mind, like the fulfillment of the work that I do now, the freedom that it brings me in relation to my own time and where and when I work, being able to help as many people as possible. So like I'm so clear on those goals. But because I'm so goal orientated, I'll often be like, oh yeah, no, I need to run 10K. Oh no, I need to sign up for this half marathon, which I haven't done, thank God. Or, I need to do a photo shoot or I need to do this or that, like, and I'm always like trying to get stronger or get fitter or get leaner. And then it's like, okay, why do I always have to feel like I have to make myself better? And I
mm,
think that's a really good question for anyone listening to really ask yourself. Like, I've got really, really clear on my values. What are my values? Family, freedom, health. All right. So now I'm like, okay, if I'm pursuing something, is it actually in line with my values or is that my ego talking? Is that my self-sabotaging voice in my head that's telling me I'm not good enough talking? And that can, like, I think when you can zone in on that, it's a really great way to know whether the direction you're pushing in is the right direction.
yeah, and I think like we're only human, and a lot of times the reason we get caught up in those things now, a lot of it I think is because of social media. I don't remember being like that years ago. Like in school, we would have chatted about goals and like you would have want what university you wanted to go to or what country you wanted to go to next, but it wasn't this like excessive need to do like extraordinary things, and it probably has come from social media. And even like I genuinely will be honest, I remember running my first 5K and being buzzing off the kudos I was getting on Strava. And I only went for my next 5K because of the kudos. Like the kudos is what got me through that, which is
No,
so
Rebecca,
ridiculous.
I ran my first 10K, right? And I think I talked about it on my social media at the time. I ran my first 10K a few months back. and I stopped. My sister rang me right at the end of it, like, and I had my watch connected, so I thought I was finished, and it
Mm.
stopped at 9.96 or something, and I cried. Like, I actually cried. Like, I was running with my husband Dave. He's like, "Kate, what's wrong with you?" And I was like, "No, I'm not. Like, I'm not okay. This is like, and I can't run this again tomorrow. I'm injured."
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
was,
yeah.
yeah, I was. Isn't it amazing? And I was like, it was because I didn't get the trophy on Strava.
Literally. Is that
I was
what
like,
it
I
was?
ran 10K, but I didn't.
Yes, exactly, and I remember it was
Crazy.
only a couple of weeks ago, I went out for a 10K because every now and then I'll change it up from a 5K into a 10, like, when I say now and then, I mean, like, twice a year, and I'll go out and be like, "Okay, I'm doing a 10K," and I finished the 10K, but I actually kind of had 12 in my head the whole way around because I was like, "Oh, well, like, I did 5K before, I did 10K before, I should try 12K," and I wasn't trying to better myself. I wasn't just trying to push myself to 12K for me. It's almost like because I'm doing more than I was before and probably was to see the personal record trophy on Strava. And by the end of the 10K, I was absolutely wrecked and I didn't do it. And I remember halfway through that day feeling like a little bit deflated. And I had to actually just call myself out on it and be like, are you actually daft? Like, you went out this morning and ran solid for 58, 59 minutes or whatever and you're disappointed in yourself. Like we are devils for it. And I actually envy the people who don't have that tendency. And I think everyone has it to an extent. Like, but naturally I think being caught up in this social media more, this world more, like I did get very caught up in it last year and just like more is always better rather than less is more. And like you said, it's about taking that second to kind of realize, like, why do I need to do this? Is it for myself or is it for other people? Is it for the kudos? Is it for the likes or what is it for? And that once again comes down to like I'll figure this stuff out in my daily walks or in the gym. Like this is the epiphany that you kind of have when you have that me time. And
Yeah.
yeah, I totally agree with you there. I've been there, and we're all a work in progress. Like we're all only human, and I think there is an expectation that as coaches, like we have it all figured out or whatever. Like I'm only 20. I was about to say I'm only 29. I'm 30. And, like if I'm coaching women who are almost double my age and have had kids, like they have a life experience that I don't have. So I don't have it all figured out, and neither do they. Like we are all human, and it's about accepting that we all are where we are. Once
And
again,
it's
big work
about
in progress.
enjoying the process, isn't it, as well? Like that, yeah, like having goals can be good, but it's really enjoying the journey and enjoying the habits that get you to the goals. Like, because it is about the little things. Like, if I ask you now, actually, I will ask you that now, like, what actually brings you joy? Like, what things in your day, like in your day or in your week, make you genuinely happy? Like, give me one thing if you can think of something.
Obviously, the confidence in yourself. Not, and I don't just mean physically. I mean like personality wise, mentally, like from living the life I've lived and all of the hard things I've done in the past couple of years, which are related to weight loss and not just that as well. Like I honestly feel like I could walk into any room and handle any situation. And that
Yeah.
is something that gives me that kind of, I don't know if that's the kind of happiness you're talking about, but it's
It
it's
that
a
you feel like you have that resilience that it brings you, like,
yeah, it's a
yeah,
piece. Like it's a piece
yeah,
that's come off of this journey that
yeah,
like, you know what, I can do hard things. And it
yeah.
sounds trivial, like when people are in the gym and you hit a PB on the bench, that might trickle into like that you can walk into any job interview and not feel nervous or whatever. But it genuinely does have an impact. And that's something I feel like brings me so much happiness is
Yeah.
recognizing like you have built this character.
And that's such a strong why then for you getting in the gym and doing it. You want to go in because you want to feel that feeling. And it's like for me, what brings me the most joy in my week, like I love going up the mountains hiking. Like I love being out in nature. I love being out walking. I love things like getting up an hour before my kids and having like a coffee by myself. Little things like that. Or I've started doing like a morning yoga practice and I really enjoy that. And I'm like that it's the little things. Like it's never like we're striving for all these goals of like, looking a certain way, running whatever
Mm,
we're running or lifting whatever we're lifting or, business goals or life goals, financial goals. The things I've just listed and things you've just listed, you've just explained there, they don't cost a lot.
mm.
And I think we can get so caught up in getting there, like, you know, on our weight loss journeys, on our fitness journeys, our business journeys, whatever, being like, when we get there, we'll feel like, you know, I'll be happy when. But when
Yeah.
you actually think about it, like, it's the minor things that make me so happy and that make us all so happy. And like, it's really, that's a really, anyone listening, is such a worthwhile like exercise to do. Make a list of
Mm.
things in your week that genuinely bring you joy, or maybe things that bring you joy that you don't get a chance to put in your week. Because now I'm like, I will literally make sure like, obviously there's shit that has to be done as a grown up, you know, and I do resent it a little bit sometimes. I don't like doing the grown uppy things,
Yeah.
but you know, they have to be done. But I'll always make sure there's a little bit of joy in there.
Yeah. And I
And I
think
think
like
we forget to, don't we?
we do. We definitely do. And like that's what comes back to like the whole self-reflection thing. Like it sounds all airy fairy, and I come from a family where, you know, like my dad would be a very hard worker, so my mom, and just get on with it. And they'd probably think I'm away with fairies, but it's so important. And I think the answer I gave you there, like, was probably a bit deeper than maybe you were looking for. Or like, obviously, there's so many things that make me so happy, but I think I remember doing this exercise with students here last year when I was teaching, because like the education system here is very, very intense, and they do get very caught up in their goals, which is to do really well in tests and whatnot. So it's not just fitness related. I remember we had like a bit of a spare class, and I took the opportunity to do like a happiness list with them. But first, I had to teach them about the reality of happiness, which ultimately comes from dopamine. And it's also something I'm often trying to touch on with clients as well, because all of our habits come from dopamine. And I see the term dopamine being like thrown around online, and then they call it like cheap dopamine and like looking for the long term dopamine. But we made a happy list, and I did it for myself. And I remember like the top three things were like coffee walks. Like that for me is
Yeah.
ultimately number one. Like I love waking up in the morning and I just get out immediately and go for a walk. Second thing is sun, which I know is hard found sometimes in Ireland, and it is here too. Like it's not, obviously the grass isn't always greener, but just that little bit of sun, or like whether it's a full
Yeah.
day of sun or it's just half an hour of it, but getting out into the sun. Like, and then thirdly, I remember putting sleep, which is so daft. But I think when you understand the importance of sleep, and you know you're prioritizing sleep, you know you're really, really, you're doing well for your body there, because like
No,
without
that's a
sleep,
good
obviously.
one. Yeah, that's a
Well,
good
it's
one
stupid though,
because
like.
there's nothing nicer than getting into a nicely freshly made bed and, you know, in your cozy jammies and, you know, get with a good book or whatever. When you have kids, right? This is when you really understand, you really value it now. Like my kids are older now, so it's fine. I sleep. I go to bed before some of them at this
Yeah.
stage, you know, but I leave my husband up. Like, you sort them, I'm going to bed. But
Mhm.
when, like, my sister has just had a new baby and he's absolutely adorable. But it reminds me of that stage when you have a newborn, and people listening will know exactly what I'm talking about. That anxiety of not knowing how much sleep you're going to get and when you're going to be woken is real, and it feels like it's never going to end. Now it does. They grow up real quick, but in the moment, I remember when my oldest Jaden, like when he was newborn and like he'd wake in the middle of the night, I'm like, oh my God, this is my life now. I'm like, I'm never going to sleep a full night ever again. That's how it felt. So now, like, I really value my sleep and I really love, I'm like, I feel so lucky that I get to go to bed and, you know, touch wood, there shouldn't be anyone waking me in the middle of the night and I get a good night's sleep. It is the little things, but like we can't function without it.
Yeah, because when you understand the importance of it, then obviously you're like so grateful that you can do that. And like obviously with this job as well, we have a bit more control in that as well. But yeah, just go back to the happy list, let's say. I really realized, and I realized from everything that my students put as well, like it wasn't about like owning things, or it wasn't about, like you said, the bigger goals. It was just like most of them were free, and they were just little things and so simple. And like that ultimately is what this is all about, is getting to a place. Because years ago I wouldn't have went on a coffee walk, because one, I didn't like walking because I was too overweight. Two, I probably would have thought drinking coffee was like getting a latte was bad for me. So going for a coffee walk, I actually made a video about this before, and I love to push this point. Like years ago, if you had told me that I'd go out and I'd walk, because going for a walk was like a big deal, whereas now going for a walk is just a walk, like it's not exercise. Whereas I used to view it as exercise, like a task. And then I'd go to get a coffee, which, if it's an oat milk latte, is probably going to be 100, 150, 200 calories. If you had told me that I'd go for a walk, like exercise, and go get a drink that's going to ultimately have calories in it, it would have not made any sense in my brain. Like, but aren't you trying to lose weight? Because ultimately, we always were trying to lose weight growing up. Like, everyone was always just trying to be lighter and slimmer and skinnier. It just made no sense. Whereas now it's like those calories don't matter. And it's not a walk, it's not a task. It's like two really, really enjoyable things that have become a daily habit, which have made my life so much more positive and healthy. And it's all those epiphanies that are what really matters here.
Yeah. It's so important when you recognize what those little things are, that you hold on to them for dear life and you don't sacrifice. Like, if you're losing the little joys in pursuit of your goal, something's off.
100%.
Rebecca, thank you so much for coming on and chatting to me today. This has been such a lovely conversation.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Honestly, I was dying. I couldn't wait to get onto the call with you.
There's so much value there. And like, we really do share that same mindset in relation to how to approach reaching our goals and getting healthy and losing weight and getting fitter and stronger, and doing it in a healthy, like, I think, do you know what it is? Our value of how important health is the same,
Hmm.
and our step-by-step process. So thank you so much for, it's been so lovely to talk through these things, and there's so much
Yeah.
value here for everyone listening to take with them. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I just want to say thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I would just ask for one thing from you. If at all possible, could you make sure that you subscribe to the podcast? It really does make such a difference. If there's a particular episode that you've enjoyed, please do share it in your WhatsApp groups, share it on your stories, tag myself and the guest in your stories. All of these things really do help to grow the podcast. And obviously, if there's anything you'd like to reflect on, please do leave a comment. It would mean the world to me, and I will see you on the next one.